Hello guys, and today I'm going to show you another chess video, okay? Now this video is going to show you why sometimes it's worth sacrificing a rook to save a bishop. And how sometimes you can give your opponent a false sense of security, make them think they're even winning, and then provide an astonishing shock checkmate which they didn't see coming. Now, I'm at the bottom playing with the black pieces, okay? Because black pieces matter, guys, right? Now, let's have a look at it, what happens. Now, a lot of this I'm going to show you until near the end fairly quickly. So I'm just going to show you the moves. I'm not going to comment. There's not really much to comment on. These are some piece exchanges. Right. Again, I do not know why people do this. Again, the idiot castled. There's this obsession in chess with castling, and I don't fully understand why. All the experts say castle as soon as possible. I personally think they're idiots, but there you go. And the king is exactly where I wanted it to be, but more on that later. They fell for the trap, but was it going to work? For some reason, I do not know why, they didn't take my queen. They should have done, and they didn't. I think they think they're about to get a very fast checkmate. Okay. I move my queen to this position. I move my king out the way. Now, it is a stupid thing for them to have moved the knight there, but you'll see why later. Now, this is where it's going to get rather interesting. I move my rook up to attack their queen. Okay? They move their queen out of the way. I now move my king. I now move my king again out the way. They then take a pawn. I think their intention is to try and checkmate me by, in some way, moving down the bottom. I move a pawn up. I have a plan which is not immediately obvious. It may appear that I've moved a pawn up just to provide more space for the king to move in, but that wasn't the reason at all. I'm rather hoping they might get a bit greedy. Yes, they then decided to threaten my rook. However, I'm not particularly bothered about the rook at this stage. I'm far more interested in protecting the bishop, because the bishop is going to be far more lethal than anything the rook could do. The rook is not going to be that useful. The bishop is potentially lethal, but I believe in their obsession with wanting to take pieces, they probably won't realise what I'm up to. Now, they probably can't believe their luck, and they probably think this is a terrible blunder. But I actually have a plan. So they've now threatened my bishop. Okay? And seemingly have got a rook for nothing. But I have the position advantage at this stage. I now take a pawn. It looks as if I just wanted some compensation for losing the queen at all. They then move down the bottom to put me in check. Notice that there's also a pawn, which looks rather dangerous, which could soon become a queen. I move my king out of the way. They do not realise how dangerous a position they're actually in at the moment. Or maybe they have. Maybe they've actually realised how dangerous the position they were in was, and they have decided to do what they think is a forking check. They think that they will be able to take my bishop off simply by putting me in check, and they expect me to perhaps move the king, and then they can take the bishop. But it's not that simple. I move the bishop back next to the king, and it looks at this stage as if I'm just protecting the bishop. I am protecting the bishop, but the bishop is crucial to the entire game, and I want to make sure it's still roughly in that position. But they don't realise that's why I want to keep the bishop so much. Because if they had, and they realised how powerful the bishop was, they wouldn't do the next move they're about to do. Now, they at this point think that the bishop can't move. It's trapped. They believe that the bishop can't move because it's trapped. And they think at some stage they could move the rook or a new queen and somehow directly attack my queen. Sorry, my bishop with a brand new queen. Their next move was to move a pawn down. The idea behind this was that they would be able to, on the next move, they believe, notice they believe, move the pawn down to become a queen, and then I would automatically lose my bishop probably somehow. I may be able, because I wouldn't be able to move the king anywhere that would protect the queen. Simply to the bishop, simply because they think that once the that pawn became a queen, if I don't move the king, the bishop can't move, so it can be taken off. You know, by moving there roughly h8 to f6, and they also believe, for example, if I move the king out of the way, then the bishop would be able to move after that, but it would most likely be taken off anyway, because places I would move to couldn't stop the bishop then being taken by one of the two queens, and I couldn't take one of the queens off because it would be protected by the other queen. So on the surface, this looks like a good move. It looks like on the surface that they are about to get a queen. It looks as if they will have two queens and a rook. And if we exclude the knights completely and the pawns completely, it looks like they will have a queen and a rook compared to and even an extra. So they've actually got at this point in terms of pieces. They would have if they on the next move they could gain a queen. They would have before even taking the bishop. They would have an extra rook and an extra queen. And as it looks as if I would lose my bishop on the next move, on the surface it seems that way, although isn't what's going to happen. It looks like I would also be a bishop down, so I'd lose the bishop. So it looks as though I would be down in pieces completely. I would have I would be down by a pawn. I'd be down by a rook, and I would be down by a queen. So basically, they would have two queens and I'd have one. And I can understand why they probably thought what they were doing was quite clever. At this point, they probably thought they were about to win the game. Most people looked at this casually, they would immediately assume at this point that white was winning. And unless you look very, very carefully, you would assume white had the better position at this point because white has more pieces. It's about, or will have once if it becomes a queen, the pawn becomes a queen, and some people who are playing black at this point might have even resigned, thinking that it was only a matter of time before they're lost, based because they haven't got enough pieces. But never quit, never give up, because believe it or not, the side which has the best position is black. And the next move was to move the queen in front of the king. Checkmate. White never got the chance to create their second queen. Even though the bishop is trapped, the black bishop is trapped in front of the king, it can still be used to stop the white king taking the queen, causing checkmate. So even though a piece cannot move because it's trapped in front of the king, it can still be very lethal in protecting another piece that creates a checkmate. So there you go, guys. Sacrificing a rook so that your opponent doesn't realise the bishop is the real troublemaker, and getting a checkmate when the position seemed on the surface hopeless for black. Never give up. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.